Welcome back, folks, for a new episode of Leaked. And today we'll cover the T25 Pilot Number 1. This is going to be a premium Tier 8 American medium tank, and just like premium Russian heavy tanks or premium German tank destroyers, there are quite a few premium American mediums, but they are sleepers, so not a lot of people know them, but let's count. We have the Ram 2, the M4 Improved, the M4A2E4, and that's the beta reward for playing the closed beta of World of Tanks. You have the T26E3, that's a tournament reward from way back when. You have the T95E2, that's a recruiter friend premium tank. You have the Super Pershing, the Pan KR. You have this vehicle. You have the T95E6, which a lot of players recently got from the Clan Wars, but it's inferior to the M48A2/T54E2/T123E6, which is M48 custom, and that's way better as a Clan Wars golden reward at tier 10. And you have the M60, the good old M60, so that's 11. Yeah, sleeper sales. You did not know that, did you? So there are quite a few premium American medium tanks, but this is going to be another tier 8 premium tank. So yeah, is it the signal or the foreshadowing of Super Pershing removal from the gift shop? I don't know, but it might be. So you have 3 tier 8 American premium medium tanks now, so who knows. But let's talk about the T25 Pilot Number 1. So this is initial prototype of the T25 series of medium tank projects. Now, the T25 series were based on the T23 series with a few minor modifications and a new turret to house the 90mm M3 gun or T7 gun. So this gun is basically the M26 GMC gun motor carriage gun. So the Jackson's gun onto this vehicle, onto a medium tank, has better firepower than the 76mm. So it's designed with electrical transmission based on the T23 series, should have HVSS, so horizontal volute spring suspension, and torsion bars for the later versions of this vehicle. So the earlier version of this tank was experimental, whereas the T25E1 was the mass-produced version of this tank. Now, by mass-produced, it's only 40, so it's not like the T34s or T54s kind of mass production, like hundreds of thousands of them. So there's only 40, but yeah. So this is a link between the Sherman into the Pershing. So it's an intermediate step, but let's talk about this series or the T20 series into the M46 patent. So initially, after the introduction or standardization of the M4 Shermans, the U.S. Ordnance Department started to develop a successor for the Sherman tank. So they've already been working on the T14, which is a heavier Sherman-ish of a heavy tank, but it was too heavy and too late, so that was scrapped. And the new project was called M4X. It started on May 25th, 1942. By early 1943, there were 3 types of T20 series. So you have the T20, the T22, and T23. And the main difference between these 3 prototypes were the transmissions. So they all had different transmissions, but all the transmissions had moved to the rear of the vehicle, thus eliminating the drive shaft running the length of the vehicle and compacting the turret into the hull, so it's not as tall as the M4 Shermans or M3 Lees. So this vehicle was more compact, more like the German or Russian medium tanks. So afterwards, the modified variants, the T20E3 and the T23E3, were deemed successful by the USOD, so they wanted these 2 vehicles to be the successor to the M4 Sherman. It was armed with 76mm with torsion bar suspension, a Ford GAN V8 engine, and lower silhouette than the M4, and the USOD requested that these two prototypes to be standardized as the M27 and M27B1 in July 1943. It was rejected. Now, the main reason was a lot of different factors. So the main partial reason was because the U.S. Army ground forces deemed that there's no immediate need to replace the Shermans. And there are a lot of books written about this controversy of why the U.S. Army did not want the Shermans to be replaced by these vehicles. So it's a whole different topic and a can of worms. So we'll cover this later on, but just trust me, they did not introduce the T20E3 or the T23E3 to be the replacement of the Shermans. So advancements on the T20, the T22, and T23 would carry over onto the Sherman tanks, such as the HVSS, the horizontal volute, spring suspension, and the M4E6 T23E3's turret. So different advancements and improvements were added to the Sherman tanks. So you can notice this by the change in the M4A2 E8. So the EZ8, was it A3? No, it's A3. So M4A3 E8 HVSS suspension. So different modify upgrades. Alright, so the USOD continued to develop a successor after the failure of the T20 series, the early T20 series, and they came up with the T25 and T26. The T25 was a modified T23 hull with a larger turret with a 90mm, so instead of the 76mm. And the T26 was a better armor, larger T25 with the 90mm. Later on, the T25 was cancelled in favor of the T26, mainly because the armor, I believe. And after a few modifications in early 1945, the T26E3 was the production variant. It was renamed into the M26 Pershing. So that's the gap, that's the link between Shermans into Pershings. So a lot of stuff happened in these 2 or 3 years between 1942 to 1945. So yeah, interesting history. Now you know. And knowing is half the battle. So go Joe. But here you can see the flow chart from Shermans to Pershings. So different transmission is the separation between the early T20 series. You can read blah blah blah. So the T20 series was deemed unsuccessful because transmission was subject to excessive oil leaks and overheating, so scrapped. The T22 had troublesome modified M4 type rear drive transmission, so it was cancelled. The T23E3 was pretty good, so they had the torsion bar suspension, then the VVSS, blah blah blah. Now, T25 series were slightly larger modified T23s with 90mm. Now, the early types, which is this vehicle, the Pilot Number 1, has electric transmission using T23 series, unable to handle the additional weight because of the 90mm, then the 76, and it was cancelled in favor of the T25E1, which had conventional transmission. And finally, the T25 series was cancelled in favor of the T26 series because armor, so mostly. The T26 series had additional armor, blah blah blah. The first is the modification to the initial variant. The E2 has a standardized 105mm howitzer. So this is basically a Pershing with the M4 derp gun, and they call it a heavy tank support M48 or M45, my bad. So this is basically a gigantic Pershing with a derp gun. The T26E3 is the production variant, so that's renamed to the M26 Pershing. The T26E4, you already know this, that's a Super Pershing. So they added armor by wielding additional plates to the frontal hull and the mantlet. They added a longer barrel, 90mm, which had amazing penetration power, like the long barrel 88s, but it's not represented in the game, so it has crappy penetration in the game artificially because reasons, but yeah. And fun fact, the original plates that was welded to the Super Pershing was salvaged from a destroyed Panther tank. I was about to say Patton tank. Destroyed Panther tank. So yeah, you took a piece of Panther and stick it onto you. The T26E5 is a prototype with thicker armor, maximum of 279, basically a jumbo Pershing. The M26E1 is a super Pershing, so modified the Super Pershing with even more firepower and better stuff. The E2 of the M26 is transmission upgrade or better engine also, so it's basically the M46 Patton. Alright, and the M46A1 is conversion of the M46. M26A1 is a conversion of the M26 into M46. Phew, history. So many numbers. And don't forget the various heavy tank designs that were based on the Pershing, such as the T29, the T30, T32, and T34. So, yeah, a lot of numbers and record keeping, but that's the whole history between Sherman tanks into Pershings into Patton tanks. And later on, you have the M48 Pattons, which later got upgraded into the M48A3, which had the 105mm into the M60, and the M60 then into the Abrams and blah blah blah, and the rest is history. So, we covered a lot. So we covered the initial proportions between the Sherman tanks into the Pershing / Patton tanks, and you have another big gap, which is from the Patton, the M46 Patton, into the M60 Patton, and that's the T54s, the different T95, T96. Already talked about those, but there's two gaps of heavy tank development for the USA, and this is the first half. Oh, all right. So here are the pictures of the T20 projects. So as you can see, the main difference you can tell is the turret, the mantlet, and the suspension. So some have VVSS, vertical volute, spring suspension. Some have the HVSS right here, and some have the torsion bar. And the turret are modified with different mantlets, so better mantlets, better shapes, blah blah blah. But you can tell the difference. Now this version, the T25 Pilot Number 1, it's going to be the T25. It's not the T25E1. Pilot Number 1 does not mean E1. So this is the actual T25 because the horizontal volute spring suspension. That's the main key element of the T25. The T25E1 has torsion bar suspension, so you can tell the difference, but it's another medium tank at tier 8. We cover a lot of history today. Jeez. So yeah, it's alright, I guess. It's basically, you can call it a prototype to the Pershing. It's basically what it is. So yeah. Oh well. And here are early models of this vehicle. So non-textured, mostly non-textured models. And here are some in-game screenshots of this vehicle. So it's not that bad looking. I mean, it's generic American medium tank that you already saw at tier 8 with the Pershing or the Patton KR or the T23E3. So it looks mostly the same, so you can tell it's American. And here are the collision models of this vehicle. As you can see, the turret front is 76mm, so not that much. The mantlet is about 89mm, and likely no armor underneath, so hull down might be a problem, but whatever. Hull front is only 76mm. It's sloped at about 40-ish to 45 degrees, so the best is about 120mm effective. Not that much, but if you hit the spare tracks that's on here, it's a little bit more. So the gigantic spare track hanging on the frontal plate is additional armor. The lower plate is about 130mm effective, so not that much armor for this medium tank. Side armor is 50-ish, 51-ish, so yeah. Side of the turret is 63.5, so no armor. The rear is 38. And that's pretty much it. So armor wise, not that much armor, but I always wondered why this little bulge between the radio operator and the driver is always the thickest on these tanks, such as the M46 Patton, the M26 Pershing, to the T20s, always have this bulge right next to or between the radio operator and the driver, and it is the thickest area of armor. Why? I mean, does it protect? The gun breech? I mean, the turret ring? But it's not protecting the whole strip of the frontal hull armor. It's just a bulge. So that's pretty weird. So if you do know, leave a comment below. But yeah, it's weird. And here are the main stats for the T25 Pilot Number 1. So it's going to be a premium tier 8 American medium tank. It has a crew of 5, has normal matchmaking, will see tier 10s. Now there are 3 categories of gold cost for this vehicle. So the craziest is 11,000 gold, and there's only one tier 8 medium tank that has that price, which is the T34-3, and the rest are pretty much cheaper than that. So hopefully it's not 11,000 gold. But you have the 7,000 category, which is the AMX CDCs, the Sherman Revalorisé, what else? The STA2, the Panther 88. Come on, think Sam. What other tanks have 7,000 gold as a premium tier 8 medium? Crud. I can't think. I already named most of them, right? Yeah. There's no Russian. No, the Russian T-54 prototype is 8,000 or 8.7 thousand gold. So yeah, you have 3 different categories. The 8.7 thousand gold is for the T-54 prototype, the Mutts, and the Pan KR. So 3 different categories, and I believe this vehicle is going to be 7,000 gold. I mean, it has the penetration. I see 7,000. Alright, I'm betting on 7,000, so 33% chance, or actually 50% chance, whereas 11,000 gold is too much. Alright, health is 1450, which is quite chunky. Has a 500 horsepower engine, weighs about 40-ish tons with equipments. The power to weight ratio is only 13.39, and that's slightly below average. The average is around 15, so it might feel a little bit sluggish to rev up. Top speed is 55 kilometers per hour, which is pretty good. Reverse is 20. Hull traverse is 43 degrees per second. Turret traverse is 45 degrees per second. Terrain resistance is a little bit above average, 0.86 for hard, 1.05 for medium, and 1.8 for soft. So the medium terrain resistance is slightly below average, whereas the other 2 are above average. So okay, view range is decent, 390 meters. Radio range is standard, above 700. Armor, 76.2 at the front, 50.8 at the sides, and 38 at the rear for the hull. The turret is mostly the same, so a little bit better armor on the side and the rear of the turret, but not that much. So the gun is a 90mm T7 or M3, has about 45-ish to 55-ish ammo count. Now, they did not give the exact ammo count, but based on the T25/2 and the T25AT, those 2 vehicles could hold about 47 to 56 rounds of the 90mm. So this vehicle could hold about 45 to 55 or so, and that's pretty decent. Fires AP, APCR, high explosive. Penetration is 192 for AP, which is not that bad. The gold shell APCR is not as crazy good as the Pershing or the Super Pershing's gold shell, so only 243 millimeters, whereas the Super Pershing has about 250-ish, 258-ish, and the Pershing has like 260-ish. So yeah, not that good of a gold shell, but 243 is not that bad. Alpha is a little bit below average, 240. It's alright. Rate of fire is 7.69 rounds per minute, which is average. DPM is 1845, average. Accuracy is 0.36, which is slightly below average. Aim time is above average at 2 seconds. And they did not give the gun depression or elevation, but I'm guessing it's 10 degrees gun depression and 20 degrees elevation. So typical of American tanks, which are pretty good. So yeah, it's average across the board. So it's a fair premium tank, I guess. So final thoughts and opinions. It's average across the board. So pass for a premium tank. It's not that bad. It has about the same stats as an average tier 8 medium. And this is a premium tank. So you do make more credits and crew XP to train your crews. And it's a 5-man crew, so you can train more crews. So it's good. Alright, so strength is health, terrain resistance other than the medium, aim time and view range. The weakness is the lack of substantial armor. The mantlet is not as thick, so you cannot rely on taking hits while going hull down. You have to do the peekaboo, peek out, shoot, peek back down, peek out, peek back down, that type of maneuvers. Horsepower per ton ratio is slightly below average, so you might feel a sluggish start to revving up. And the accuracy is typical of American medium tanks, so below average accuracy, but I'm guessing you have good accuracy while shooting on the move, and that's the soft stats of the gun characteristics. So basically a patent KR that trades horsepower per ton ratio and ammo count for better terrain resistance and aim time. The patent KR and the M46 Pershing, or M46, alright, M26 Pershing and the M46 patent has about 70 90mm rounds available. So this vehicle could hold less, as around 50-ish. So basically less ammo, less horsepower per ton ratio for better terrain resistance and aim time, which is okay, fine, fair. So unless proven otherwise, should have a good soft stats for the gun depression and gun dispersion while on the move. And unless artificially inflated, should have less ammo count than the patent or the Pershings. And unless textured differently, shouldn't have a paint job like the Tiger Stripe paint, so no artificially inflated camouflage rating. So is it worth it? Kind of bland. I mean, you already have like the patent KR, so basically the same vehicle, almost, but you do have a little bit more armor, quote unquote. So fits all the checkpoints or check marks of a premium tank, so it's alright, but kind of bland. So same shit, different day. Does it replace the Super Pershing? I hope not, but it's a whole different type of vehicle than the Super Pershing. The Super Pershing is like a heavy tank. This is basically a low armor medium tank. Okay, fine, whatever. So it's not interesting enough, in my opinion. And what it is interesting, or what's new for a premium medium tank for the Americans, might be something like this. So this is a proposal for the T25E1 with 105mm T5E1 cannon. This gun is basically the top gun on the T29 or T32. Or the M6A2E1. So the mutant M6, but as you can see based on the diagram, it's a gigantic gun onto the Pershing, or onto the T25, but basically the Pershing almost. So here is what this vehicle should look like. I took this from the internet, and this is pretty awesome. So think about it. The turret is about 279mm of armor, or high amounts of armor, like 300mm, and the whole armor is like 76. This will be an awesome tier 8 premium tank than the Pilot Number 1 T25. Ugh. So this is interesting, whereas the T25 is like, oh, I already saw this vehicle. We already saw a lot of these vehicles. Okay, so here is the T26E5, the Jumbo Pershing. So as you can see, it looks exactly almost like a Pershing, but take a closer look at this segment. So the upper hull is 6 inches, which is about 152.4 millimeter, and it's sloped at 44 degrees from the horizontal. That's about 220 millimeters effective for the upper hull plate on a medium tank. The turret front is 7.5 inches, so it's about 190-ish millimeters. It's sloped at 80 degrees from the horizontal, so about 200 millimeters effective. And the matlet is 11 inches. The gun shield, that's the matlet. That's 280 millimeter. That's a jumbo Pershing. It's like Sherman Jumbo to Sherman EZ8, whereas this vehicle is jumbo Pershing to normal Pershing. So why can't we have this thing as a premium tank? Or have the jumbo Super Pershing add space armor to this thing, and oh my god, that would be awesome. But yeah, the T25 Pilot Number 1 is so bland compared to these vehicles. Alright, so here are the rest of the missing links. So some fun weird facts. The T21 is a prototype, it's only a model. It's closely related to the T20 medium tanks, but it was designed to replace the M3 and M5 Stuart tanks. So it was too heavy as a light tank, and the idea was scrapped for the T24 program. The T24 is a combination of the M5 engine and transmission with some aspects of the T7 or M7 medium tank, and this later became the M24 Chafee. So yeah, it fits all together like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle or something. The T27 is a prototype armored car, and the T28 is a winning competition armored car design against the T27, but there's no such thing as a T25/2, T25AT, T28 prototype, T28, or T110E4, right? Those are made up by Wargaming. So the actual T28 is a car, an armored car with a 37mm, a 50 caliber, and a 30 caliber. Alright, fun fact, the T31 is a demolition Sherman tank with a modified turret and 2 launchers. So it's this thing. What the hell is this? Yeah, that's the T31. I was looking up weird numbers. It's like the same thing with the IS series, like IS-1, IS-2, all the way up to IS-6, IS-7, IS-8. What the hell is the IS-9? IS-9 is basically IS-8, which is basically a modified IS-5. So I was looking at the numbers. What the hell is a T-31? That thing. The T-33 is a flame-throwing Sherman tank. It's not a Sherman Crocodile. It's a modified turret. Whoops. It's a modified turret with both a flamethrower and a 76mm, I believe. There are 2 barrels on this vehicle. It's a T-33 flame. Alright, so yeah. As I said, the T25 prototype, or T25 Pilot Number 1, it's not that interesting. So hopefully we get something like a super ultimate jumbo Pershing or something. That would be awesome. Or the crazy turreted Pershing thing, or T25 thing. So this thing. But thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.